Could not have done this without you. This was very hard.
I am the 1 in 7 American children who struggle with hunger. Kids you pass by every day, but never knew were hungry. I am Child Hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Good afternoon, greater Philadelphia area. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Time, and she's Stacey Mitchell. And we've got Nick behind the camera, and we all work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the number one RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018, number 11 in the country, number 7 in the state. And we're streaming live every single week on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Just look up Tom Toole Sales Group and make sure to subscribe and follow. So, ladies, mortgage relief finally is here. We saw rates come down last week, and they came down even more today. I saw 6 7/8 was the quote I saw get posted, which is great news. This is a result of the CPI data. So the CPI is the Consumer Price Index. It's the cost of things that we buy as consumers in the market. The CPI data was up 3% year over year in June, which was lower than May's 4% reading. And it was only up 0.2% from the previous month. And if you look at the core CPI data, which is what when you take out the data, you take out the cost of food and energy because everyone's got to buy those things. We still saw only a 0.2% increase, and that came in at 4.8%. Both of these were below expectation. So my observation here is the market's responding favorably because the things the Fed did are working. Now, there's probably a bigger question here about what happens next, but this is pretty good news because we kind of thought this was going to happen. We had to wait for the data to catch up, especially with that dated shelter calculation that's used. And even shelter, which is up 7.8% year over year, it's down from 8% in May. That accounts for more than 70% of the total increase in all the items except food and energy in that core data. So inflation's coming down.
Woohoo.
Yeah, about time, right? We saw mortgage rates respond favorably. They were 7% last week. I saw a 6 7/8 quote today. What do you guys think about this? And what does it mean for the Fed meeting at the end of the month?
Good question about the Fed meeting at the end of the month.
Yeah.
I still don't think they're done taking the sledgehammer to the economy. So I think they're going to do what they have said and anticipate and promised to do. They're going to raise it again one more time because I'm sure they're still aiming for that 2% inflation rate. But that being said, I saw it at 7.3 one day. Was it last week or a week and a half ago?
Mortgage rates, you mean?
Yes. Which I quickly just clicked out of that because I
Don't need to see
didn't
that.
want to
Didn't like
acknowledge
it,
it,
yeah.
didn't like it. So pleasantly surprised with the rates as they are now. So I think that this is definitely a move in the right direction. There's been a lot of buyers that I've been talking to in the past week that are very concerned with it, more so over concerned with the economy overall.
Mhm.
And when the rates ticked over 7, they, really were concerned about it and mentioned that they would be holding off to see what happens. The uncertainty, I think, is really the driving factor for their decisions at this point. Even that being said, there's so much competition in the market right now, and it is really, really hot with the people who have the motivation and the need to buy. That with each closing of each home, it becomes a comp. And I try to, make my buyers understand that
Right.
the housing prices are not coming down
Right.
regardless of the interest rates. So that's still challenging. But this is really, really good news.
Yeah, no, this is great news. I mean, I am very confident that the Feds will be raising again. It would be awesome if at this meeting they didn't, the upcoming one. But certainly when the fact that, if they're able to drop the interest rates, if they're able to come down below 7 in general, I mean, that is great, great news. But you're absolutely right, Stacey, that this doesn't mean that home prices are going to be going down.
No, and I'm sure that the Fed doesn't like that.
Right.
But what they're doing, what they are doing directly has impact on the housing prices,
Mhm.
and the limited supply, because homeowners who are in their homes currently and have the low mortgage rates right
Mhm.
now, they're really reluctant unless they have true motivation. They're not going to give up that 3 and 4% interest rate to move
Right.
into a 7. So it's kind of backfiring what the Fed's doing. I understand why they're doing it, and they're looking at something more broad, but it's not. They really have put this negative effect on the housing prices.
Mhm.
So you're not the only way that feels that way, Stacey. And Sarah, I agree with you. It'd be really great if the Fed would pull their head out of their butt. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on the radio here. And look at what's happening, because they've been saying all along, like 2% is the target. Well, guess what? We're at 3.
Yeah.
Let it play out a little more. And that's the challenge that I see here. And a lot of experts agree, right? So Lisa Sturdivant, the chief economist at Bright MLS, came out and said, despite the positive inflation report, the Fed will likely resume its rate hikes when it meets later this month, remaining committed to raising interest rates until the magical 2% inflation target is met. And, the problem is that in housing costs, which account for such a large part of the inflation picture, they're not coming down meaningfully. And I think that's the challenge. When rates go up, guess what? The housing prices go up. So we'd probably be seeing an even lower number if they weren't hammering rates so hard. She goes on to say housing should not be treated like other goods and services in the consumer price index basket. A home is not a dozen eggs or a flat screen TV or a trip to the beach. Pushing rates higher without a strategy for increasing supply in the market will not cause housing costs to fall until the Fed has gone too far by sending the economy into a recession and decimating demand through the job and income losses. What's your reaction to her comments here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. Like, housing is something that everyone needs. It's not just like a want or, a frivolous thing. I mean, to what extent of home you get, certainly there's, room to talk about it there, but not having a plan for how this would play out in the long term is not a good start. I think you need that for it to come together and for it to work.
Right. I mean, they've been complaining about unaffordable housing for Americans for a while, and they've exacerbated the situation to I don't even know where this goes and ends. I don't see any end to it. There's so many people that want to transact, so many people that want to buy.
Yep.
They don't necessarily want to rent. And even as far as the rental market, as soon as a unit becomes open, it's full. And that's why that drives the rental prices up.
Yep.
So people are just being priced out everywhere. And I don't see how that ends. There's new construction of apartments all over the place that I see locally, but they're luxury apartments.
Right. Yeah.
We talked about that. So, unless people are pulling their money together, it's still quite unaffordable for a lot of folks.
Well, and the challenge here is that you see, there's no more supply coming, right? Like builder confidence is way up right now because of course it is. Guess you know why? Because they're like the only game in town and they're producing units. So that's going to be really helpful, number one. And then secondly, one of the challenges here, and Lawrence Yoon talks about this, that low inflation means low mortgage rates. Therefore, decelerating the consumer prices could steadily lift home sales and increase home production in a few months. But there's not any land to build around in some of these markets like here or like other places in the Northeast. So with so many empty apartment units, rents could plateau by this time next year. So we've seen rents kind of calm down a little bit. Barry Sternlight's talked about this. He owns many, many multi-unit properties. He gets real-time rental data. And it seems like every economist out there, anyone that's paid to pay attention to these things is like, hey, Jerome Powell and the Fed, stop raising rates. You're at 3%. And the data's lagged. Like, imagine if you looked at, and I think this equates to real estate agents. It's the real estate agent that had a great first half and has nothing pending sale right now. It's kind of the same thing where they're looking at, oh, well, it's been a good year so far. Well, hey, you got like 6 months left in the year. So this is a challenge here. And right now, the CME Fed Watch, so the CME Group, it's cmegroup.com. They have this great Fed Watch tool. Any guesses on what the percentage chance is that we will see a 25 basis point increase next week?
80.
Too low.
95%.
Too low.
97%.
Still too low. Too high. 97.3%.
Oh my gosh.
Bananas. So it's basically, hey, we're going to do this. Now, the silver lining here, and Sarah, we've talked about this, is that lenders typically bake in the pricing to their rates. So the positive here that we live in 2023 and not 10, 15, 20 years ago, or even 2008 when this last happened, we don't have like that, oh, I know what's coming sort of feeling. Like there's talk about it, but you don't get all this inside reporting that happens here. So, it's disappointing to see that. I just don't know that it's going to change. I think they're going to do what they said they're going to do, and then that's going to be the end of it, no matter what.
Yeah.
Of course. That's exactly what they're going to do, what they said they've done.
So good news, inflation's down to 3%. We saw inventory bump up again this week, 5,569 homes. We saw rates come down. I mean, do you think rates keep coming down here? I mean, what's your take on everything that's going on right now? Because we're seeing inventories popping up a little bit. We're seeing people being able to negotiate on homes now. I mean, we talk about you had this home sale contingency that got accepted last week. Still mind blowing to me. But people are writing those kind of offers again, more so than before. So what's this mean for the second half of the year? I think they're going to raise rates twice more. I hate to say it. My hope is mortgage rates come down based on this. If we still see this inflation data come down, I mean, what's your? We're sitting here in September, right after Labor Day. What's the market looking like at that point for folks?
I think it'll be busy if the rates remain in the sixes. People are comfortable there, even if they're in the high sixes. We've talked about this over and over. Once they hit 7 or over 7, people pull back. They're not, even though it's below the national historic rate of 7.99%, they're not comfortable with those rates in the 7s. As soon as it goes there, people do pull back. So now that we're back into the 6s, if it stays there, I think we're going to have a really healthy fall market and look forward to it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to still come down to, as always, working with motivated individuals that have like a reason to do the move. But yeah, I think just kind of staying proactive with everyone, informing everyone what's going on, and also just kind of reiterating that there is no timing of the market. That when things make sense, when numbers make sense, you cannot perfectly time it. So if everything looks like a go, it's a good move.
Well, that's a really great point. And the consumer sentiment agrees, right? So here's what we're seeing with consumer sentiment. And I want people to kind of realize this. So if you look at some data that came out, it's called the Home Purchase Sentiment Index by Fannie Mae. It's the HPSI, which tracks the housing market and consumer confidence to buy or sell a home. The full index is only up 1.2 points year over year. That kind of tells you what's been going on in 2023. And right now, 22% of respondents, feel like it's a great time to buy. That's up from 19% the previous month. So I see consumers are starting to come to grips with the market. They're kind of realizing like, hey, this is what's happening. This is what we're dealing with. And a large share of the respondents thinks mortgage rates will stay the same over the next year, where compared to last year, most thought rates were going to continue to go up. And I would argue that it might even go down a little bit. I mean, there's signs all over the place about that. So are you feeling this consumer sentiment in the marketplace right now? Is that why you're a little bullish on the fall market here, ladies?
I've got people on both ends of the spectrum, I feel like, where like some are feeling positive and some are feeling less so. So I don't have I wouldn't say like across the board that there's suddenly been this surge of people feeling like super, super confident. But I'd say there's more that are confident than aren't.
Okay.
I think for the most part, the people that I've been speaking with are hopeful that the rates are going to come down. But they're also accepting of where the rates are.
Mm-hmm.
So there were people that got burned trying to wait out the market.
Mm-hmm.
And that we know, and we've talked about again, over and over, you can't time the market. So it really comes down to the right house. If it's the right house, you have to go all in.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't stress that enough to clients, even though, because sometimes that opportunity won't come up for another 6 months if they're looking for something very specific. So, a couple of people have gotten burned that way and they're still waiting for that next right house to come on.
Right.
So hopefully the next time around, they're going to, heed my warning and throw it all in instead of just, okay, well, another one's going to come along. Well, that might not be the case
Right.
anytime soon.
Yeah.
So, Sarah, I think your new nickname should be "Don't Time the Market." Like that should be like Joel, the process Embiid. Like you can be Sarah, "Don't Time the Market," timing. So that would be pretty good. I love that you keep saying this, and I would argue the reason you two are feeling this way is because you know how to qualify people and ask the right questions. I mean, is that something you feel like you can pretty much tell if they're going to be ready to transact or not, or at least if they're showing the signs of what makes up a top prospect or someone that's serious? I'm clear that's why you're feeling like you're identifying these people because you're not spending time on the ones that don't.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or the ones, I would say for some of them, the ones that don't are starting to move in the right direction. It's like you don't want to overly commit too much time to them, but helping to kind of get them to terms with, where things need to be. It sometimes does take a little while to move them in the right direction.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. Yeah.
So what strategies are you using to do that? And what information are you giving them? Because part of this is poor education by real estate agents, and part of it is just not even knowing what to do in the first place, and they just throw their hands up in the air. And then there's a little of both.
I think a combination of giving them options for still feeling informed about the property, but maybe strengthening their offer, maybe doing things like a quick inspection before putting the offer in, the like walk and talk inspection, so that they can strengthen their offer in the terms section if they're maybe not quite as willing to budge on that for pricing. Then I think in terms of getting somebody realistic about what a property will most likely go for, it's not like it's that difficult, but just like providing comps and like, well, this is what went around us and, in the X amount of days, and then kind of breaking it down further to it went under contract in 5 days. So, knowing so their expectations can kind of line up for where to put something in it.
If it's clients that are just getting started, so, they're 3 to 6 months or even longer, 6 to 9 months out, definitely I provide case studies so that they're understanding what, like Sarah provides the comps, what things list for and what they actually close for.
Right.
They're 2 different things.
Yep.
We're 2 totally different areas here. Go in depth about how to strengthen offers, things that we can utilize, tools that we can put into offers to make them stronger, not necessarily price point. And also put them on drips. I have them on all kinds of automatic searches within their criteria that they're looking for so that they can monitor the market, see how quickly things move. And I can keep track of them, what they're looking at and how often they're going into the portals, and just follow up with them, see where they are, see what they're thinking, see if they're, trying to keep them more motivated than to not, if you feel when you talk to them, they're getting discouraged. Oh, it's just everything's going so quickly. You can tell in their voice. So again, providing case studies of how you can help them and get it done.
Right.
Now, you might think this is basic stuff you guys are doing. Is that a fair statement? You think this is like obvious to do these things?
It's obvious.
So this is very advanced for most real estate agents. You're smiling, but most real estate agents, the basics for most real estate agents are deciding where they're going to have lunch after they didn't work all morning. Basics for real estate agents are getting out of bed at 10 o'clock. And the average realtor only worked 30 hours a week. It's down from 35 last year. In 2021, it went to 30 in 2022.
Wow.
And so what these ladies are saying is it's so critical to pay attention to, because it may seem obvious. Send properties to people, give them information, show them data, pull recent sales data. The amount of agents that actually do this are few and far between. And if this is the kind of consumer experience you're having right now, it's time to get a new agent that's going to give you the information, because we've been through a transaction together before you got into real estate. Did you have any idea what was going on before I met you?
Not really.
And you tried selling it on your own. So that kind of tells you. I mean, you've been through a real estate transaction before. Did you have any clue what was happening?
No.
So these are people that sell real estate right now. And if you're listening to what they're talking about, whether it's pulling comparable sales, sending properties, like it sounds like, of course, make sure you do it every time. That's the best advice that real estate agents can have. And if consumers are listening right now, the reason they come to grips with the market is because they're getting educated. It's being a knowledge broker in this situation. So what you two are talking about, I know it seems like it's like, duh, why aren't you doing this? But it's not the case. And I don't think consumers realize that. And I know real estate agents don't realize that. So this is the stuff that should be happening at appointments. If it's not happening, time to find a new agent. And if you're an agent not doing this, rewind this, go to our YouTube page, watch it again, and take notes about what these two are doing, because you're both selling a lot of houses for a reason, because you're helping the people that want to transact figure out what the heck is going on in the market and what their alternatives are. It's all about options.
Yeah. Well, and I think I have noticed the number of showings that I do per week is less than it had been, in some of the other times. So you want to make sure to take advantage of those times that you have locked in with that person to give them as much info as you can when you're face to face, because, some people, like, if you just email things over, they may or may not look at it. If you try to call them when you're not like at an appointment or whatever, not everybody wants to hear things. So taking advantage of the window that you have with them to, shove as much info like in front of them as you can, not like in an overwhelming amount, but just like take advantage of that time you have locked in with them.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
And I always follow up. Do you have any other questions? So
Mhm.
while we're together, what other questions might you have?
Right.
And that's where, you can see their the wheels are spinning and they're like, oh, well, maybe this is a dumb question, but
Right.
it's never a
Right.
dumb question.
Right.
I try to make them understand that, like, you don't go through this process.
Right.
So these are all very, very good questions. So never
Exactly.
feel like there's a dumb question.
Yeah. And I mean, especially like early on when you're in the process with them, like once you have a client that you've been showing a number of things to, you have that like real connection and everything, you feel a bit more secure about your relationship. That's one thing, but especially early on, like you might not get another shot with them.
Mhm.
Like they're not locked into anything with you. They're not like committed to you at this point yet. So just taking advantage of that time to try to make the best like impression and give them the most value that you can.
Well said. So I'd watch this one again, especially this segment here. We're going to put together some shorter form content. I was actually messaging Nick about it when to clip it up because there's some really valuable stuff in there that you two are doing to help consumers come to grips with the market, to realize inflation's coming down and realize kind of what's coming in the marketplace here and the upcoming Fed meeting. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. Major legal news in Massachusetts we're going to chat about real quickly. Then we have Troy Mixon coming on. So Troy might be the best SaaS salesperson. If you don't know what SaaS is, it's software as a service that exists in the real estate space. He's the VP of Sales and Industry Relations at Inside Real Estate, formerly of Boomtown. We're going to talk about his process, everything he does, next on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
For the best local mortgage service and great rates on your money, look no further than Mortgage America. We've been operating in the greater Philadelphia area for 40 years with a focus on smooth,
Real estate team in the country. We call it AAA service. We're your advocate, ally, and advisor because this isn't a transaction to us. It's a relationship. If you're buying or selling a home, call the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX main line at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. That's Tom, Toole with an E.com. Sell your home for more and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX main line.
When you're getting a mortgage, you shouldn't have to sacrifice great service just to get a great rate. At Mortgage America, we've been lending with this philosophy for over 35 years. We have access to great low rates without the complications and delays of big or online banks. We're a local Pennsylvania lender with loan officers that you can actually meet. As PHFA's #1 lender, we specialize in all residential mortgage programs, including first-time buyer programs and low down payment options. For your free pre-approval, call us at 610-439-8000 or apply online at mymortgageamerica.com. Mortgage America is equal housing with MLS 12850.
Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Stacey Mitchell. She's Sarah Timon. We've got Nick behind the camera, and we all work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018, number 7 in the state, number 11 in the country. So we are talking about now. This is something that it was actually kind of shocking to me because I know we talked about this last week at our monthly team meeting that we have, that this is not on people's radar. And not our team necessarily, because that's my job, but a lot of agents that I know across the country have no idea what's going on here. So MLS PIN, if you don't know what MLS PIN is, it is a broker-owned MLS in Massachusetts, and they settled a commission case similar to the class action lawsuits that have been filed against NAR, and they settled for $3 million. And this was about buyer broker commission lawsuits. So now the thing here is that there were other defendants in the lawsuit. NAR was not named. So the National Association of Realtors was not named. And because it's a broker-owned MLS, they are not directly required to abide by NAR rules. So it's a little bit of we're part of Bright. Bright's the second largest MLS in the country behind the California MLS. So we're regional, right? We're covered in like DC, Maryland, Jersey, obviously the greater Philadelphia area. So it's a bit of a different situation. And what happened was in December 2020, the lawsuit alleged that the broker-owned MLS PIN did not abide by NAR rules, and it adopted a similar rule about offering compensation to buyer broker. So it basically works the same way, not anything different there. The short of the suit is that there was a $3 million settlement. 900,000 are going to go towards attorney fees, 200 towards expenses, 250 towards notifying settlement class members, and then there'll be the lead plaintiffs will get each of the three named lead plaintiffs will get up to $2,500 for being class representatives. So it wasn't really that much money when it's all said and done. Apparently, the ruling is that they weren't. The plaintiffs believe that the MLS PIN was not and is not in a position to contribute significantly to the monetary recoveries. And the short of this was that it's less about this lawsuit and it's more about what does it mean for the class action lawsuits. So what do you two think about this? Just right off the bat, what do you think here after looking at this information?
Well, I think they settled because, they just need to wrap it up. And that's what most people do. It's not, you know what I mean? It's probably cost them a fortune in attorney fees. And it, as you can see, of the $3 million that the PIN agreed to pay, 900,000 go to the attorney fees.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So 200,000 towards expenses. That's over a third. That just goes right out. I think this is what this is more about. The attorneys, and the plaintiffs then will get what, 2,500 each. Does that?
Or I think that was only the top couple,
That
right?
was the lead
Oh my
plaintiffs.
gosh!
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think just attorneys win.
Attorneys totally win, and that's probably why they bring these lawsuits.
And attorneys will not sue other attorneys, by the way. Like if you ever know, like you never see that happen. That's like a big no-no in the industry, which is very hypocritical in a whole nother bunch of ways. Keep going.
So I think, settling for them is the quickest and probably least painful way to go about this, as a lot of lawsuits go, just to get it wrapped up. But this is a broker-owned MLS, so it is a little different. So I mean, we've talked about this before too. Like the sellers agree to the professional fee. Right? This is what this is involving?
Yeah. So the short of this is, if you look at the realestatenews.com article, which sums this up a little better than the Real Trends article for people that don't have a legal mind, I think that's, and I say that in the best way because I'm kind of right there with them, is that there was a requirement that a seller must offer compensation to a buyer broker. So I tend to disagree with that one because you can offer $1 out in the MLS if you want to. You have to have something there. Now it should be a yes or no. I don't have a problem with that. And the implications here that they paid $3 million, they're going to alter their business practices, and the MLS PIN has agreed to change its rules to eliminate the requirement that a seller must offer compensation to a buyer broker. So, that's fine. My view on this is a little different because there's the two class action lawsuits. There's the Merle case and the Sitzer Burnett case filed against NAR and Anywhere, Home Services of America, Remax, KW, all the big companies. And both of those suits claim NAR and other defendants participated in anti-competitive practices by forcing sellers into a system where they pay a commission that is split between buyer and seller agents. So that's just wrong. It's not always split. There's no fixed fees. Some of these people feel like they had inflated buyer agent fees that are the detriment of home sellers. I would argue it actually hurts the home seller themselves by not paying them out, because if you want a buyer to actually close on a transaction, we were just talking how you guys had no idea about real estate transactions before getting into real estate. And you're two very smart women, right? So that's the norm. People don't know anything about these transactions whatsoever. They don't know how they work. If they bought a home 11 years ago, which is the average, or they sold a home 11 years ago, think about how the world has changed since 2012, right? Like dramatically. So that's one issue. Then how are buyers, if buyers have to pay these fees, how are they going to do it? Are they going to get an advocate? This was like a whole movement to have buyer agency happen in the first place to advocate for buyers. And now it's all getting undone, which is a little wild to me. So I see a couple of things happening here, and then I want to get your reactions, and we'll kind of leave it there, because I'm not a legal expert. None of us are attorneys here unless there's something you guys aren't telling me. So I could see this being a change to the contract, or I could see it that you've got to have a buyer agency agreement signed with a buyer before you go out with them. I could see that those being kind of the range of the way this gets worked out. And if I'm a real estate agent right now, I'm thinking, one, how do I take more listings? And two, how do I get my buyer presentation so good that I'm no longer an order taker? Because let's face it, that was created by the unicorn market. And there's some agents, and I think of a couple people on our team that weren't used to that. And then all of a sudden, they're like, now they're in that unicorn market. They didn't know what to do. We've heard people talk about this all the time. And I want to read something from a leader in the industry. He posted this on Facebook. I find this pretty fascinating as well. And then we'll get your reaction here. So, where was this here? Come on. Okay. So, I can't find this. Should have had this queued up. Here we go. All right. So what did you learn during the first half of the year? This person's a big believer that the second half of the year and the fourth quarter is going to allow you to really see what we're made of as real estate agents, which I agree with. I think there's a lot of opportunity, but it's not going to be easy, right? I would say everyone has to work about 3 times as hard to get a deal done right now. Is that fair for you two?
Fair.
So, in 2021, a lot of people were told they need to buckle down. The market was going to decrease volume, which it did. We've seen that happen. And then he went a little further and he said that I bet you that you're going to see a 75% roster change in a lot of the major organizations that are out there, whether they're teams, brokerages, or whatever else. And the agent movement has been kind of fascinating to me, what's happened there. And then I also got a text on this. This is some data that a friend of mine sent me this morning from another company that studies this. And I think this speaks to everything that's going on. Where is it here? Brokerages turn over 58% annually. You and I'm grateful that this is surprising to you, because retention is very important for our team and our organization. We still have people leave. Like, it happens all the time. But that's what's going on right now, because people are used to order taking instead of nurturing clients, and all the stuff we talked about that you're doing as like an obvious thing. It's not happening right now. And it's not going to be as easy as a lot of people thought it was going to be. And, hard work tends to work. So that quote, along with this story, tells me that's got to be the mindset for people that want to go win the second half of this year and beyond, because real estate just hasn't been disrupted yet. That's what's going on here. Yeah. So what do you two think? I've done enough talking.
I mean, I think, and I don't know how this would play out and what kind of changes they potentially would make to the contract, but at least like how it stands for us here locally, like I know that contract. I don't necessarily know like ones from other states. Like the seller is not, required to put any certain percentage toward, like they can kind of say how they want it divided up. We can kind of advise them on how that may play out, but removing the buyer's agent is not going to solve the problem. Like you need both sides to really have representation for everything overall as a whole to go smooth. If it's something where I think you had made a comment for, maybe it's the contract gets changed, or maybe you need to have a buyer agency sign before you take them out to show them anything. Well, I don't know that that's helping the buyer out because maybe they would like to, interview a couple different people or go out to, like, I don't force a buyer agency the first time I take somebody out to a showing. And I know different people have different views on that. I know there are certain very like great agents that I know of that do, they want the buyer agency signed before they're taking them out to anything and to kind of get that commitment first. I'm okay with taking somebody out without
agree.
having that and making sure that we're a good fit, that we like each other, that we can like properly communicate because I think it does come up sometimes where like you meet somebody and no matter how clear you think you're being or how clear they think they're being, there's a lot of like you just don't get each other, So I think that like the buyer should have the opportunity to go out and like meet with more than one agent and see who feels like a good fit and not just have to like sign one with whoever they had. I also think you could really be getting into a super sticky area in the like in between of things changing over cuz like right now like, for the most part it is the seller that is paying the commissions. If things like start to switch over, you could have a lot of people that fall into a category where maybe they sold and had to pay and they paid both, but then they still have to pay on the buy end. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the changeover period, if there is one to take place, could get really hairy. And like those are the people that probably wish they would have saved the lawsuit for that. Like,
Yeah. Well, and
I don't know.
well, there's going to have to be some like disruption with the finance industry too. I mean, if they can, the buyers sometimes they buy
Buyers,
these homes and they have like literally like nothing left after they buy the property because
Right.
they want to get into a place that's going to be a good fit for them long term. So it's going to hurt sellers at some point, and that's what I don't think these people realize.
I think it's definitely going to hurt sellers
Mhm.
because they don't quite understand until you tell them the ramifications of what the reduced commission is or, FISBO is. If you thought buyers were confused from just about the process in the beginning, and then you are going to tell them that they're responsible for paying all these additional fees where sometimes their eyes glaze over with the closing costs in Pennsylvania.
Right.
Just when you try to explain the transfer tax.
Yeah.
Why do I have to pay this?
Yeah.
And you're trying to talk to them about prorated taxes,
Mhm.
paying back what the sellers paid forward.
Yeah.
And their eyes glaze over. And then you're going to tack on this buyer agency commission.
Mhm.
It's either that or pay an attorney. And maybe the attorneys are behind all this disruption to begin with.
Ooh,
Right?
Conspiracy theory.
I like it.
Because the whole reason that the sellers, that this was put in place was because the buyers were getting burned.
Mhm.
Okay, so if buyers
That is very true. Like a lot of people
Right.
tend to forget history here.
Yeah, so and this is the whole reason why this came about, because buyers deserve representation.
Mhm.
They're already putting out a lot of money to get into a home. People are already complaining about how unaffordable it is anyway.
Mhm.
So now you're gonna beat the buyers more
Right.
with all these additional fees that they could potentially have to pay.
Right.
To me, there's something other going on, and maybe it is this new disruption, with the attorneys wanting to
Right.
get involved. But I think that it's so vital for buyers to have their own representation. If they rely on the seller's agent to represent you, it's going to be a disaster for the industry. You're going to see more deals fall apart.
Mhm.
You're going to see more money being wasted and
Yeah.
more buyers losing out on opportunity and losing more money.
Right.
And we're going to be back to square one.
Right.
Yeah, this was implemented back in 1993. So, I mean, this isn't like something that is just like brand new
Right.
that happened. So, I think you both bring up a really good point here. I don't see these big companies settling this lawsuit. By the way, I'm clear they're going to fight it. And a lot of the things they implement, or they allege in this, is that there's a fixed fee. I don't know about any fixed fees on listings. I mean, give them, and you see companies like Redfin and these other places that come in and figured out ways around that. So I don't really agree with all that. I'm disappointed to see the MLS PIN do this. And Massachusetts is a very like anti-business state in general. I think they're really tough to deal with. For my friends up in Massachusetts, I have no holding no punches here. I think this is documented in other industries. So there's some challenges here. If I'm an agent, I'm making sure I can sell myself as a resource, because if you got to explain to a buyer, hey, it's going to cost money to work with me, and all you're doing is opening doors and putting them on an MLS trip, you're not going to get hired. I mean, that's the thing I see here, is that it's going to be really, really important for folks to be able to sell themselves and sell their value and show what you can do. So you talked about the buyer agency contract. I mean, you might need to be meeting every buyer in your office before you take them out now, or meeting them in person somewhere where, hey, I'll meet you at the property. We'll see how it goes. And I'm not saying that's the wrong approach. I'm saying that your approach might have to change a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if you're spending time with people and there's no guaranteed you're getting paid as an agent, you're not protecting your business.
Right.
So we'll see what happens. This is just, and it's really treating your business like a business. I'm clear that's the main message here, is that if you're not working on this stuff and practicing, then you're going to be in trouble.
I agree. Yeah.
All right. So we're going to take a quick break. We are coming back, and we have Troy Mixon, the VP of Sales and Industry Relations at Inside Real Estate, coming on next. Troy's one of the best salespeople I've ever met. He's got legendary sales numbers in the SaaS and software space in real estate. We'll be right back on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
When you're getting a
offer for you. Our team did $165 million of All right. Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Timon. She's Stacy Mitchell. We got it all fixed here. We had a little reverb going, and we all work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line, the number one RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania. And we have Troy Mixon on the line. Troy, can you hear? There he is. Look at this guy. How you doing, man? How are you?
How we doing? Oh, it's 100+ degrees here in Charleston, South Carolina. So just trying to stay cool any way possible. How's everything in Philly?
Equally hot, I would say. I mean, I think it's a little hot in here, if you ask me. So I have a suit on. The ladies get to dress a lot differently in this time of year, so it's a little better. But so we got Troy on here. Troy is with Inside Real Estate. So he's the VP of Sales and Industry Relations, major history in sales in the real estate space. So Troy, thanks for coming on first and foremost. Where can people get in touch with you? And why don't you give us a little bit of background in the real estate space?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Tom. Thanks for having me. Also Stacey, Sarah, hello. Hopefully everybody can understand the accent. It can get strong sometimes, but so I've been here at been in software as a service for about, 16 years or so. Specifically within real estate for 10. Came at a company, Boomtown was one of their first sales guys, as we know. We've been acquired by Inside Real Estate. It's been an awesome family, kind of getting it kicked off and continuing to grow. Because not to interrupt that, but one of the things y'all were mentioning earlier, as I was listening in, I love the fact that the 50% of agents changing brokerages. I would have actually guessed higher personally, just from dealing with agents 24/7. I would have probably put it like 60%.
It was 58, so you were close.
But it was okay. I wrote down 50. I was like, must have kind of, my South Carolina math must have kicked in. But no, been here 10 years now, and super excited that we're continuing this journey. And just like you guys were mentioning, with people out there that really need to concentrate on the real estate agent they're choosing. I think it's now in these times, agents are doing the same with even the companies they're choosing, right? The folks who have been around for years and years, and very fortunate to be paired up with Inside Real Estate, because have a lot of the synergy and kind of the missing pieces that we've had, and we're just picking up where we left off and trying to provide our clients more value. So we're stoked, and I'm just excited to be the king today, because ladies, I don't mean to make his head bigger, but he is. I've seen this guy win awards for battling on stage in front of huge audiences for sales kickoff. So I'm excited to be able to talk to the man.
Well, if you're going to keep this up, we're going to hang up on you, Troy. So we want to talk about you, and we want to talk about your business. So you're with Inside Real Estate, formerly of Boomtown. Yep. Obviously, they got acquired. So talk to me how companies like yours in the SaaS space, and you're one of the legendary SaaS salespeople. I think literally, you've had some of the highest sales that they've ever seen in the space for real estate. How do you support agents? Because a lot of people, they think they don't need to use the CRM, or it's not something that's going to be valuable to them. And in fact, the folks that lean into what you're doing see major hockey stick-like growth in their business.
Yeah. Well, you said it perfectly before you went to break, Tom. It's all about looking at it as a business, right? I mean, that's the key point. Folks who look at it as a transaction and that's it, and they got into real estate to make sales, they will never be successful for the long game. Sure, they might be able to have a couple of deals because the market's so hot and they run their spear out, but then they exit within 2 years, right? It's purely looking at everything as, how can I run a business? And remember, when the whole red box Blockbuster thing, the popular thing in real estate was to say, hey, well, look at Netflix. What do you think Blockbuster's saying, right? I mean, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, everybody was posting that over and over again to talk about change, when in reality, it's not, Netflix wasn't positive, net money just off the rip, right? Like they had to put in things in place, right? They were in the red a little bit. They weren't just always in the black. Like, it's not something that's built overnight. And I try to make sure clients understand that it's a business, and if you're looking at it as a business, then we can provide the tools to really help you, take advantage of everything. But if you're going to look at it as a transaction, then I suggest you switch industries as quick as possible. So that's just been my, over the years, you see agents come and go, right? Similar to you guys and who y'all deal with on a daily basis. But I think folks are somewhat, when they don't have systems, right, they don't even understand what makes them successful. So I guess I do say that tongue in cheek I do feel for those that are genuinely trying to build a business and maybe hadn't, seeked out the right leadership or coaching to take advantage of that. But at the end of the day, I think most agents' faults to why they don't last within the industry is just purely not looking at it as their own business.
So how do you sell that to somebody? Because I mean, I'd imagine on the sales calls you've had, you've dealt with he's dealt with realtors, so we can all sympathize with him, right?
Yes, 10 years. Yeah, still, my hair, is not gray yet, which is, amazing. It's just being honest. Like, I remind them that I'm just like them, right? It's no different. Sales is sales, people are people. Yes, I'm on the tech side, but at the end of the day, this industry will always be to the agent, right? Like, it will always revolve around the agent and the relationships. It's the biggest purchase, that anyone will ever make. So I'm not here to be like, software, let me take the business away from you. I'm just here to supplement so that you can focus on selling, right? So you can focus on what you do best. And whether that's leading a team, whether that's being a rock star agent, it's reminding them, but also having the frank conversation that if if they're like, hey, the thing I've hated over the years, where like, well, just give me a quick pitch. Just give me the pitch. Just give me the pitch. And I'm like, this is probably not right for you. Like it's not a one size fits all, right? Like it's a consultation and an upfront conversation, just like you have with your, whether it be buying and selling clients, when you sit down with them to let them know what this process is like. It's just being frank with them. And fortunately for me, that's paid off dividends, and something that I always try to preach to our guys and gals here, that at the end of the day, just being yourself, being open and honest with clients, and they understand because they're salespeople too. And if they're not, and they're not looking at a business, then they don't need to be clients, because they just won't be long-term partnerships.
Love it. Ladies, what questions do you have for Troy? All right. Well, if you don't have any.
I am a girl dad, lady. Well, I was gonna say, like, I am a little sluggish today because my baby girl, she's been to the doctor today, and the strep was negative, so it's been a sleepless night. So having to make sure I got my caffeine to keep it going.
I like it. All right, so Sarah went to Clemson. So I mean,
Yeah.
I think you're a Gamecock, right? So it's
you're a Gamecock. Oh,
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
There's other things we can call Troy off air, but so
yeah. What laid you down to Clemson?
So my family lived in Greenville for a couple years when I was in middle school. I'm from Pennsylvania.
Yep.
We moved down there for a couple years, moved back. I went to like soccer camps there and stuff. And then my older sister went to Clemson, went down to visit her, and I was like, well, this is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful campus. I'll give them that. My wife's from Spartanburg, so right.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, then my younger sister ended up going to University of South Carolina. So even though we're like from Pennsylvania, we had like the house divided for like Clemson and USC.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is she a doctor? I'm just kidding.
No, she's in she's in sciences, but yeah.
Okay, no, totally a joke, because I don't know how much you know about Boomtown's CEO now. He's a director of strategies for Inside Real Estate. Greer Allen, he's a Clemson guy. So we've had to I knew who signed my check, so I was just kept my mouth up for many years.
Yep.
But Tom, have you gotten into college football at all, or?
I mean, I went to a basketball school, so we don't watch too much college football up at Syracuse. They're pretty bad. So it's the way it is. But although we did beat Clemson a couple years ago, and I think I texted Sarah or I asked a friend of ours too. So before we started working together. So Troy, we got a couple minutes left here. So what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? Do we go to do you hit you on Instagram? Don't give out your phone number on the radio here, but what's the best way to reach out?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Just Team Mixon at InsideRealEstate.com or Troy Mixon, TroyMixon on Instagram. Either way is fine, and whatever I can do, I'm happy to help. And I always say that if I don't have dances, I'm even more than happy to give you a suggestion, or maybe it would be a better fit if it's not with us. But the beautiful thing about Inside Real Estate is we kind of have all the tools for no matter where you're at in your journey to help you along the way.
Love it. All right, well, Troy, thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate you. You're looking very thin. Troy's, how much weight have you lost in the past year?
About 70 pounds. So the great man, Tom Toole, is the one that got me on the Peloton. We were at a conference, and he found out that I had a Peloton. He goes, "You have a Peloton?" And I was like, "Yeah, it just sits in my garage," which is probably no joke. But he's like, he got me going. He kept me accountable for that first month of, hey, let's do it at least 3 times a week. And now I'm obsessed. I do it about every day.
Yeah, I mean, you look great, dude. In all seriousness, I'm very grateful for that. Appreciate the friendship. Appreciate the relationship. Team Mixon at InsideRealEstate.com. That's it for this week's episode. You can follow us live every week, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Just look up Tom Toole Sales Group. You can follow Sarah at Ty_Ty Time. You can follow Stacy at _2 Mitchko, both on Instagram. You can follow me at Tom Toole 3RD. We'll be back next week. Thanks for tuning in.